Welcome to Golf Smarter Mulligans, your second chance to gain insight and advice from the best instructors featured on the Golf Smarter podcast. Great golf instruction never gets old. Our interview library features hundreds of hours of game improvement conversations like this that are no longer available in any podcast app.
The first principle is called getting grounded or balance. The second principle, developing feel. The third, visualizing the shot. The fourth, creating your own pre-shot ritual. The fifth, find your natural swing. Sixth, play one shot at a time. And the seventh principle, you take it to life off the golf course, is what I call transform your golf game, transform your life.
With another interview from the archives of Golf Smarter, here's your host, Fred Green.
Hey, Darrin, do I got you on the line?
All right, good to talk to you, Fred.
There we are. So welcome to the Golf Smarter for Members Only podcast. We are now recording, my friend.
All right.
And
I'm ready. I'm here in Hawaii, loving it.
Well,
bringing in some sunshine.
Aren't those words always go together? I'm here in Hawaii and loving it.
Yes, it's just the way it is. Sorry to say.
Yeah, all right, enough.
I invite everyone to come visit.
Well, and that's what we're going to talk about, is why they should come visit so that they can work with you on their golf game and get much more than just swing mechanics.
That's right. Well, we know that this is a very complex game that we'd like to make simple once again, and I believe it is a simple game that has become overanalyzed over the years. So what we try to do is help people simplify the game and get back to the basics of having fun.
Well, it's been a long time since you've been on the show, a long time. And I definitely invite the Golf Smarter members to go back in the archives and hear more about Darrin's first book, which is called The 7 Principles of Golf. But why don't we do a quick recap on the 7 Principles of Golf, and then I definitely want to get into your new book, The 7 Personalities of Golf.
Oh, you bet, you bet. The 7 Principles of Golf are the tenets of what we teach in the Golf Academy, the Spirit of Golf Academy here on the Big Island. And these were the founding principles for what we do now at our program. And it's a mental game technique. The subtitle is Mastering the Mental Game on and Off the Golf Course. As we all know, as golfers, or if you've dabbled in the game, a large part of the game is attributed to how you handle your emotions and your mental game. Some people venture to say as much as 90%. One of my clients, Jerry Kelly, on the tour, says he thinks it's 99.99%.
Yeah, it's because he has a good swing.
That's right. That's right.
He's on the tour. I mean,
that's right. Well, at that level, it ends up being that. The fine line between number 1 and number 250 is really the mental game, because on Mondays when they're out practicing, they can all shoot the same scores. But when it comes to Thursday morning, Friday, you get to the weekend, and it's the guys with the strongest mental game that can really make it happen. Now, how does that affect the average everyday golfer? Same thing goes for that average player. Is sometimes on the range they're hitting the ball and they're hitting it like Jack Nicklaus, and then they go to the first tee and it's like they've never held a club in their hands before. And there's no difference between standing on the range and standing on the first tee, other than things that have entered into your mind. And that's what we help you with the 7 principles. Now, a lot of techniques out there get a little complex. I wanted to break it down into very simple steps that someone could follow. Read the book, watch our video, or come to our Golf Academy and learn it right then and there. It's not this thing where it's going to take months and months. I want people to see the immediate impact. And so the 7 principles take you through very simple, basic concepts, but make it very practical. To me, it's all about, can you put it into practice? So there's a lot of theory out there. I wanted to turn the theory into a practical approach. And so each of the 7 principles is in each chapter, not only talks about the principle, but exercises to help you learn it and feel it from the get-go, and then how to apply it on the golf course right away. And that's the power of it. And it becomes a cohesive program that you can use on the golf course. And, the subtitle also talks about using it off the golf course. And I firmly believe that a lot of these principles that we experience from the mental perspective on the golf course, if you can master it there, it helps you do the same off the golf course in your personal, professional life.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that anybody who's listening to the Golf Smarter podcast was drawn to just the name in itself. Golf Smarter is not just a name of this show. I believe it's a way of life out on the golf course. That that is the fastest way to lower your scores. And you say it's the difference between an exceptional player and a great player.
Yeah.
So let's break it down quickly what the 7 principles are, if you don't mind.
You bet.
Because it's going to sell a book. It's got to sell a book, right? Wait, and let me make sure. Are your books available on Amazon.com?
They certainly are.
Well, then they're definitely going to be available in our Golfers Mart. We'll make sure that they are there if they're not already. And are there Kindle versions available?
Kindle version is not out yet, but it is available in good old hold it in your hands form. And actually, when the book was designed, I worked with the publisher over a year and a half on this. We designed it so that it's a collectible. The book is something that you'd want to put on your shelf and keep it. It's with a cloth cover. It has a ribbon marker so you can mark the pages that you're working on, and it's also a size that you can not only put on your shelf, but you can throw it into your golf bag. So it's something that we wanted to make almost like a handy handbook, if you will.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is more than just a paperback, and it's that impressed me a lot. That you even had the little cloth marker and all these things, and even the pages are thick enough where they're not going to get crinkled up and ruined or come popping out of the book.
Right. And one of the important things I wanted people to be able to do with the book is also to see it. So we have some great illustrations there done by a very famous line artist named Keith Whitmer, and he did a fantastic job of illustrating all the different exercises. So not only can you read it, you can see it in the book as well.
All right. Well, let's again reiterate that this is available if you want to purchase either of these books. They are available at golfsmarter.com in our Golfers Mart in the book section there. So let's now break down those 7 principles of golf. Your first book, Mastering the Mental Game on and Off the Golf Course, the 7 principles.
Sure. I'll give you the overview, and then we can talk a little briefly about each one. The first principle is called Getting Grounded or Balance. The second principle, Developing Feel. The third, Visualizing the Shot. The fourth, creating your own pre-shot ritual. The fifth, find your natural swing. Sixth, play one shot at a time. And the seventh principle, you take it to life off the golf course, is what I call transform your golf game, transform your life. Now, these 7 principles, again, they work cohesively, but at any given time for any individual, one might become more prominent for you than another. So the way I tell people is to read through the whole book, reread the sections that you feel apply to you at that given moment, or look at it as a collective that you can use every time you get on the golf course. Yeah, so it's very powerful from that perspective. Now, the first principle, I think, getting grounded, I call it being balanced. So it's kind of goes across several levels there. It's not only about being balanced physically, which is a big part of it, and the exercises are to help you get balanced physically, but it's also to help you be balanced mentally and emotionally throughout the round. A lot of ups and downs in a round of golf. 18 holes, 4 hours plus or minus. There's a lot going on during that time, so the balance issue goes across the gambit. And for people who play in tournaments, it's over several days, and with the practice rounds over a week or so. So it's about being balanced in many different ways. But in general, being grounded for the golf swing is about being planted, feeling that you're secure on the ground. A lot of the illustrations talk about mental imagery. Imagine you're a tree rooted in the ground, real solid foundation from the waist down. You feel that connection, and that helps you set the tone for how you strike the ball. A lot of beautiful swings out there, but if you're uprooted and kind of swaying back and forth too much, you're not going to strike the ball as well as you can. So that's number one.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you open with that because it ties in the mental part of not only getting grounded but finding your balance there. And it is amazing to me. And then again, it's not, of how many golfers bring their Little League baseball swing into a golf swing and are so, and I'm guilty of this as well, but so off balance at the end of a swing.
Yeah.
And leaning back, falling back off of a foot, stepping on, practically walking away from the ball. So I think that's a great place that you've started.
And it's one of those things where if people say, stand in balance, you see people standing in the most peculiar ways. But when you give them an exercise to find it, one of the things I tell them is, imagine you're about to receive a serve in tennis. How are you going to stand? Or if you're playing defense in basketball, or someone's or you're playing volleyball and they're serving to you there, how would you stand? That gives you a better feel for being in balance, and I think that helps people to apply other sports and other situations to find that balance.
Yeah, I think that's great. A great way to do it.
And the funny thing about balance is, we get some wind out here in Hawaii, and people always show up to the academy saying, "Oh gosh, it's so windy today. Should we be doing this? Should we wait for a calmer day?" I go, "I love the wind. I want it to blow. I want it to howl," because what it does in those situations is you are forced to find your balance. You are forced to find your balance, and very often people end up striking the ball better than they ever have in those kind of situations. In fact, the best round I've ever played that I still remember vividly in my mind is when there was a 40 mile an hour gust here, and it forced me to find my center. I struck that ball better than I've ever struck it, and maybe the score doesn't reflect it because of the conditions, but I felt that was my best round ever because of the situation.
I think that being used to that kind of wind, if you can ever get used to that on the golf course, you also understand of how to adjust your club selection.
That's right. So if the wind's howling left to right, you have to play a draw or a hook, right to left. So that's where, and you take the clubs to adjust for that. But then you still have to get that same basic relaxed swing, and that's where the balance sets the tone. That kind of evens everything out, if you will. Now,
before we get to the second principle here, I just want to be assured that these 7 principles are not going to be repeated. It's not going to be redundant when we get to the 7 personalities, right? They're really
totally different. A different aspect. What it does is it takes these principles are always overlaying everything you do. The personalities is about what's your unique personal style on the golf course.
All right.
And that you'll see how that kind of expands from what we're talking about right now.
All right, so let's talk about the second principle briefly, and I'm really curious on what you're going to say about this.
Well, developing feel. Basically, the connection between you and the golf club is through your hands. And it's all about feel and touch. And in the game of golf, you always hear the broadcasters talking about how Phil Mickelson has great touch around the greens. And people are like, well, what does that mean? What it is to me, is how you're connecting with that club. Do you have, fists of steel where you don't have any feel? Or are you nice and light and you feel a connection between your hands and the club? And the more feel and touch you have, the more abilities you have to actually create those most delicate shots, and that's what I mean by feel. So it's funny, when people grip a club, they don't even realize it. Sometimes they're gripping it as if they're stuck on the 405 freeway in rush hour traffic, and gripping it with the death grip. And how can you, if you're tight in the hands, you're tight in the shoulders, you're tight in your body, and you're tight overall, and it's hard to get that nice relaxed swing. So we tell people try to play with it a little bit. Try a little lighter, try a little tighter, hit different shots with those different feels, different grip pressures, and then you'll determine what works best for you. And everyone's a little bit unique, so it's no one type fits all. It's about you as an individual.
And for anybody outside of California, which is probably most of this audience since it is global, if you've ever seen photographs or movies or film or news coverage of Southern California in Los Angeles, and I'm in Northern California, but in Los Angeles, and you see these shots of just gridlock traffic, that's the 405 he's talking about.
That's the 405, yes. Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock.
Oh, yes. No. Any time of day.
Any time of the day now, okay.
It's going to take you 40 minutes to go 6 miles. I mean, any time of day, you just know that if you have to go anywhere near that freeway, you're going to be slowed down. All right. Now, what I wanted to ask about in developing feel, and you talked about the different elements of what creates feel, but you didn't mention, and I'm a recording engineer, so I'm going to go there, you didn't mention sound. How much does sound have to do with that feel?
I think all 5 senses have to do with feel. So sound is all about when you grip a club really tight and you strike the ball, it has a different sound than when you're nice and relaxed and you strike the ball. Also in how you, even if you're just doing a practice swing, So what we do in the academy is we have people do practice swings with a death grip. And that has a different sound than when you're holding it feather light. So those things all come into play in determining, what's the best feel for you. So, and again, that goes with everything, your vision, what you hear, what you feel. I mean, I can even sometimes smell and taste a good swing, if you will. And that's the beauty of it, is that you bring in all your senses to really create what you want, what you feel.
And the third principle is something that I'm a big fan of, and don't see a lot of people taking advantage of it. They just step right up to the ball and look at it and then look down, turn their head and look down the fairway. They don't stand behind the ball and not only line it up, but visualize what exactly you're trying to accomplish. Yeah,
I think it's one of the old tenets of, start with the end in mind. What do you want to create? What is your end goal? And in golf, it's what's your end goal on a particular shot. So if you're on the tee, you want to imagine where do you want your ball to end up. And some people just say, I just want to hit it there or somewhere in the fairway. Fairway's a big thing, usually pretty wide, lots of space. You want to pick a specific spot in that fairway where you'd like your ball to end up so that your approach shot is coming from the right angle for that particular hole. So I want you to be out there, and if you had one of the exercises that I do on a playing lesson is I say, okay, we're not even going to hit the ball. We're going to go out, and I want you to place the ball where you want it to end up on your drive. Okay, and so the player goes out there and they start looking around. They go to the left side, the right side. They get the right distance. They go further, shorter. I go, place the ball exactly where you want it. They place the ball. We go back to the tee. I go, there's your target. I want you to visualize your ball going in the air, any which way you feel you can hit it, landing, bouncing, rolling, and kissing up next to that ball. And it's amazing how powerful that exercise is and how many people get within I'm talking within probably 10 feet of that ball.
Wow.
It's just an amazing percentage that
tee?
actually do that. So I recommend people to doing that. On the driving range is a little tougher, obviously. You can't go out there. But if you're on a empty course in the afternoon or your club, go out there and place a ball in the middle of the fairway where you want to hit your drive to. Go back to the tee. Stand behind the ball, see that ball going and landing, ending up right there, and you'll be amazed how accurate you'll be able to hit that ball.
Great piece of advice.
Same thing for your approaches to the green.
Yeah. I generally try to pick a patch of grass or a shadow, something that I can grab a hold of visually and just stay focused on that.
Yeah. And a lot of people say at the golf school that they're not visual. They don't see it. And so I give them some tools to see it. And some people will do fishing. So I gotta imagine you're casting a line out there. Okay, can you see that line flying in the air? And they go, yeah, I can see that. Or imagine you're taking a smoke bomb and you're going to throw that smoke bomb in the air. It's going to leave a smoky path in the sky. Can you see that? And people are like, oh yeah, I can see that. I go, that's visualization. So it's different for everybody. It doesn't have to be visualizing the ball going in the air, but anything of that nature, you're throwing a paper airplane in the air, those are the kinds of ways to visualize and get in your mind what you want to actually create. And then it's set in there, and then that automatically transfers from the mind to your body when you're actually hitting the shot. And it's amazing how powerful that is. And I know you're a big proponent of it, and you can see the results right away.
Fourth principle. Creating
your own pre-shot ritual. Now, this one ties the first three together, and this alludes back to what you had just said a few minutes ago about, people sometimes they just step right up to the ball and hit it. They don't stand back and visualize and so forth. So the pre-shot ritual, what it does, it separates being on the golf course from playing golf. Okay? Separating being on the golf course from playing golf. People ask, well, what's the difference? Being on the golf course, you're out there for 4+ hours, okay? Playing golf is literally just swinging and hitting the ball, okay? Swinging and hitting the ball takes a couple seconds. So let's say 90 shots average, 2 seconds, 180. So you're actually only playing golf for about 3 minutes. So that means the other 3 hours, 57 minutes plus or minus is just being. You're just on the golf course. You're moving from ball, A to B. You're waiting for your playing partner. You're just selecting clubs. Hopefully you're not on a cell phone, but that does happen on occasion as well. So what we need to do is separate all that stuff, all that noise, I call it, kind of excess noise, from when you want to be silent, those 3 minutes and strike that ball to the best of your ability. So the pre-shot ritual does that. Now, I think this is the greatest challenge in the game of golf, is to be able to do that. Go in and out of concentration, in and out of focus. Okay, in this day and age we live, there's a lot of going on constantly. Your phones are constantly going, your computers are going. You're always plugged in, if you will. Okay, so this is where you're going to have to learn how to unplug for the 2 seconds you strike the ball, and then replug in. Okay, and it's both metaphoric and as well as in reality in terms of plugging and unplugging. So what you need to do is set up a pre-shot ritual that sets that difference. So literally what I tell people to do is that ritual can be anything you want. And I use the word ritual instead of routine. You hear pre-shot routine. I like ritual because rituals are meaningful, they're purposeful, and they're personal. There's something that you set for yourself. I don't want your ritual to be like anybody else's that you see. I want it to be yours. And the key in that ritual is that it helps you get to that point of focus. So the book, as well as what we teach in the academy and in my DVDs, is how to help you find your own pre-shot ritual that sets that tone. And that's very powerful. And it's one of those things where you can use when you're on that freeway and you're getting stressed out too, because it teaches you to have a trigger to help you immediately eliminate the noise, calm your nerves, get back into your personal zone, if you will, so that you can hit your best shot.
Oh, you are so good. It feels like you've been asked this question before.
Well, it's not. Well, I wrote the book. No.
Oh, that's right. So,
but
it's not something you haven't thought about before, huh?
No, well, I think it's one of those things that everyone has heard about. Everyone knows they're supposed to do it. But you ask the average golfer, why, and they're like, I don't know. I just do it because people say to do it.
Yeah.
But to me, it's not powerful until it is internalized.
This is going to be interesting to me because people are always tweaking their swing, even during a round. They think they know exactly what they've done wrong. They watch the Golf Channel. They look at YouTube videos. They're watching PGA Tour, and they're doing everything possible they can to mess with their swing instead of what the fifth principle seems to be.
Well, the fifth principle is finding your natural swing. Okay, and what you just described is that's, again, the technology that we have today is that you can access millions of different opinions on the golf swing daily and make those changes in your swing. What it ultimately ends up being is, what's the swing that's going to work for you when you're on the golf course, and what's a reflection of who you are as an individual. Different heights, shapes, sizes, physical, athletic experience, we're all going to have slightly different swings. No two are going to ever be the same. So you need to find a swing that fits you. And so when we usually we have about 3 to 5 people in a particular program at a time, those 3 to 5 swings are going to be exactly different and unique, and that's what we want. We want you to find the one that fits you. And it's funny because you watch a lot of these young players coming up who have learned, basically hooked up to computers. They analyze their swings from when they're 4 years old. And so what happens is they match it up against another player, another pro, legendary player, and they say, okay, you need to do this to match up to that person. What ends up happening is they lose their natural swing. And so when they get into tournament situations, when they get into pressure situations, they don't have that as their fallback to go to that natural swing, and it breaks down. So you see that a lot. And so I really encourage people to make sure when they're learning, if they do choose to, get to that path, and I think it's powerful, it gives you a lot of information, is that they remember that they need to develop a swing that feels right to them. That's a natural swing. You look at Jim Furyk out there with his loop and his swing. People have tried to change him before, but he said, this is not me. That's not my natural swing. That's not going to hold up. So he kept his swing, and it helped him win the U.S. Open. And he readily admits that was what the difference was in his career, not changing his swing. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to tinker, we all do, definitely. I want you to work on the game, see your pro, work on different things, but you need to keep in mind that you want to incorporate that into your natural swing set. It's something that you can reproduce. And it's a personality thing as well, and that's where we get into the next book, is what is your style on the golf course, and I'll talk about that a little later.
Yeah, hopefully. And now the sixth principle to me is the one that ties, like the first principle, ties to life as much as anything does to translate in between golf and life. And the sixth principle is just play one shot at a time.
Play one shot at a time. It's being in that moment, and again, something that I think golf teaches us so well in terms of what we can do off the golf course. We live in a society where there's a lot going on. Everyone has a lot going on. We're always busy. But you can only do one thing well at one time. So same thing in golf. If your mind is elsewhere, if you're still thinking about the prior shot, if you're worried about people rushing you, if you're worried about the next hole, your end score, you're forgetting about one little detail, and that's hitting the ball right in front of you. So it's really about practicing present moment, being in that moment, stopping everything else so that those 2 seconds you are exactly there. And when you do that, and when you're actually there and you feel it, it's an incredible aha moment that you try to repeat 72 times around, or whatever your score might be. Even if it's 172, if you can get 172 of those moments, those present moments, that one shot at a time, then it's all worth it.
Yeah, and it's focus on the process, not the outcome.
Yes, exactly. I think a lot of times people are so attached to the outcome that it affects the quality of what they're doing. And so one of the tenets that we practice is detaching from outcome, not allowing the outcome to determine the quality of your shot. If you knew what you wanted, you visualized it, you went through your ritual, you felt like you stayed connected to your shot, doesn't matter what happens. So if maybe it bounces and kicks off right instead of going towards the hole, that's still a good shot. Everything else is out of your control.
Yep.
And when you can practice that, then you'll start to really see the results in the long run.
It just takes me back to that round that I was having a great round one day, and made the mistake of looking at my scorecard as I stepped up to the 18th tee, and I found out, it's like, oh my God, if I par this hole, and I'm just hitting the ball so well today, if I par this hole, I'm going to break 80.
Yep.
And of course, I hit my tee shot in the water. The seventh principle, and then we'll go right over to the personalities. Transform your golf game and transform your life.
Yeah, it's about if you can change the way you approach the game of golf. And when I say transform it, it really is a transformation from being a game in which you are constantly criticizing and analyzing, to enjoying being out there and enjoying each and every shot. That's something that's going to help you when you're off the golf course, in your personal life, your professional life. Instead of going through the motions, trying to, constantly move, is to take time, step back, enjoy what you're doing, and appreciate it. Then I think that's going to help you really see what's important in your life, and help you sort through all the noise again. Sort through the noise, because there's a lot of noise in your day-to-day, and start to prioritize and see what's most important. And if you can do that, then it's really, really powerful.
And it's really a great lead into your next book, which is the 7 personality. And I'm so glad you're not doing the 18. Of every. It's such a pun. Well, no, that too. But I mean, it's become such a pun of I'm doing a golf book. There's 18 chapters. There's 18 answers. But the 7 personalities of golf. Discover your inner golfer to play your best game. It really. It continues right from that last chapter, and helping define who you are and understand that, and that would help you on your game. Is that your theory on this? Is that your basis of the book?
What I realized, we're celebrating our 10th anniversary of the Golf Academy, and we've worked with tens of thousands of golfers now. And what I noticed over the years is that certain types of personalities were showing up at the golf course for our program, and no personality was any better than the other. No one had, was one that you wanted to shoot for. It's just who you are. And so I thought that was, and you could see it in how they actually swung and played the game of golf. So my belief at that point was that personality whatever it may be, whatever one you have, it has some pros to it, has some cons to it, and then it shows you how you can also borrow from other personalities to play your better game, to have a more well-rounded game. So what I did was I started to kind of take notes, say, okay, this is the type of person that this is, and this is the type of personality that this person has. And it turned out that there were basically 7 that I observed, and the 7 personalities that readily come up are: 1 is the Intimidator, 2 is Swashbuckler, the 3rd is the Methodologist, we have the Gamesman, the Steady Eddie, the Laid Back, and then the Artist. So those 7 personalities kept coming up, and I can describe each one. But like I mentioned just a few minutes ago, each personality is just basically who you are as an individual when it comes to swinging the golf club. And you need to know when to use it and when not to use it. So one that I like, I'll talk a little bit about briefly right now, is the Swashbuckler. So, I think of an Arnold Palmer or a Phil Mickelson as that swashbuckler. That's just the style that they play. They go for broke. They're very flamboyant in their way they play the game of golf and the way they live their life, and that's why they love the game. They enjoy that thrill. So if there's a shot that they have to go through the trees and over the water, they're going to do it because it's fun for them, and that's when they perform at their best. Now, that being said, there are pros and cons to that. Number one is they hit a lot of heroic shots that help them propel them to the top, but also it can be their downfall at times. So they need to know when to use it and when to turn it off. So if they're in the lead by 2 strokes, 3 strokes, going into the final hole of the U.S. Open, they don't need to be a swashbuckler then, right? That's when they want to adopt another personality, such as, say, a methodologist, someone who's just like a Nick Faldo, very regimented, hit one down the middle, hit one down to the green, 2-putt, kind of what they call boring golf, but in that situation, that would work for a swashbuckler.
Yeah, give me boring golf, please.
Exactly. We'll take that, right?
And the swashbuckler is the type of thing that makes television great. It gives the opportunity of the announcers, the analysts, and the pundits to all rip someone to shreds, like a Phil Mickelson, for going for it. And what's so interesting is just in a recent tournament, he had a chance to tie on the 18th hole, tie the guy who was in the lead.
Yep.
And he didn't go for it. He laid up.
Yep.
And then, of course, the analysts are going, wait a minute. What's he doing? That's not the way he plays.
Right.
But he had a bad lie. The wind was in his face, and he used his brains that time, and people are expecting Phil to be Phil, and he still lost the tournament.
I think that is an indication of what to expect. There were a couple of years back where he had a better balance in his game, going back to the first principle balance in terms of being a swashbuckler versus, being as a methodologist or a steady Eddie. And I think that's a good sign of things to come from him this year, is what he did in that one tournament, that one shot. He didn't win it, but I think it set the tone for how he's going to play, and he'll be more successful from that perspective as well.
And do you think that comes with age? With him, because clearly he's, as we all are, getting older, but do those kind of decisions happen more as you get older and more experience, and you become more of a swashbuckler when you're young?
Well,
or is that just a personality
trait? If Arnold
trait?
Palmer was in that tournament, he'd still be a swashbuckler. I think it's one of those personality issues that stays with you. That's who you are, but bringing in the other elements of other personalities, I think, might come with age and with practice. Is that, okay, now, this is the time to hit this kind of shot. Whereas before, maybe when they were younger, they'd say, we're just going 100%. We're going pedal to the metal the entire time. Now we're going to ease it up. Now is an opportunity to ease it up here and there. But I think at the heart, they're still that same person. So that's what this is all about. Is like each of these chapters talks about examples of each of the different personalities. But then how does this help the individual who's reading the book, the amateur players? That what I've done is I've created a little survey at the end of each chapter that you can answer. It's 10 questions, and basically you answer it on a scale from 1 to 5, strongly agree to 1, strongly disagree. You add up your points, and then it'll tell you if that's your dominant personality. It'll tell you if it's what I call a secondary personality, something that still affects you but not as great. And then it also tells you if it's not your personality at all. And then after learning what your personality is, there's another section of the chapter that tells you how to utilize it. So if it is your dominant personality, when to use it, when to turn it off. If it's your secondary personality, how it can be utilized for you to develop an all-around game. And if it's not your personality, say you're what I call a methodologist, just the boring golfer, 18 pars in a row, sometimes you need to go for it, okay? Sometimes you need to go for that heroic shot. That's when you turn on the Swashbuckler. That's also useful for any golfer. So not to be so have the blinders on in their game that they ignore the fact that, there's other elements that I need to pull in at different times.
I think one of the other things, and the listener should be aware that in this book you have this fabulous matrix in the back that not only tells you what each personality profile is, but gives a breakdown of some players that you'd may be able to recognize who have those, you've determined have those personalities,
Sure.
and the strengths and weaknesses, also when to use it and when not to use it if it's your dominant personality, and when to use it if it's your secondary personality. This is, to me, reading the book is one thing, and it's very good, especially with the 10 questions at the end. But to me, it's like, okay, I want to just, memorize this matrix, this chart that you have here. And I also think that once you have a clear understanding of what each personality is, even if it's not your personality, and help me with this, that you will be able to assess your playing partner in one or two holes and put a personality to them, and then understand how to play against them, especially if A, it's tournament play, B, it's personal, playing for money type of thing,
right.
Personal competition, or C, if it's a business situation.
That's right. So you named off three different. I would add in D, the situation where you're playing against your best bud or your brother who you just want to beat, and they've had your number for 20 years, right?
Or your brother.
I know a lot of people that show up like that. I haven't been able to beat this guy for 20 years.
You're absolutely.
I know I'm a better golfer. So
see, I've not been playing golf long enough or play with any family member to have that. I've been playing 15 years, but I don't have someone that I play with on a regular basis that's just like,
it just gets them on the side, right?
Although there is a guy who feels that way about me.
Because you always win. That's everyone who feels that way.
Well, no, I get into his head. I just know, after speaking to so many golf instructors, especially on the mental game, I can be much calmer on the back nine and not be affected by his play, and it just makes him crazy because
it drives people nuts.
Yeah, because he's trying to attack me, and I'm like letting it go, and then he starts screwing up, and I can, even if he's got 5 strokes on me in after 9. I'm going to either catch him, or even in the last 2 holes, I've done this. I've been behind by 3 strokes and beat him.
Yep.
Just because I just, yeah. And he's like, no, I can't. And it's like, yeah, well, you're going to screw this shot up. I'll just say something really simple like that. Well, he's furious.
Yeah. So what you described right there is exactly what this is by understanding the personality profile of your opponent, you know what their weaknesses are, and you can then, allow that to help you play your game. Mm-hmm. So this is also powerful for when you're in a match play situation. It's powerful when you're playing in, say, a Ryder Cup situation where you have a partner. In fact, at the 2 Ryder Cups ago that we won, that the U.S. won, Paul Azinger actually looked at the personality profiles of all his players.
Oh, really?
Yes, and he looked at, and these 7 were basically the principles that he looked at. And he started to put, when he was number 1, he could select 4. So he looked at his short list of people he wanted to select for his team, those 4 selections. So he had maybe a list of 15 people. He listed the person and their personality, before he decided which 4 to pick.
Oh,
then when he had his 12 players, he put them into pods, if you will, putting the similar personalities together. So he had 3 pods, 3 sets of 4 people on the team that had similar type personalities, and then one person be a leader there. So those 4 people with the similar personalities hung out together. They practiced together. They played together. And they had a certain immediate camaraderie because of the personalities and similarities. And that's how he matched them up when they went out and played. And that was a very powerful way to also understand how you can best match up. Now, sometimes you match up with someone when the amateur player is not by choice. It's just you get matched up. So again, another way to figure out, well, how do you play? What's your style? What's my style? Understanding each other's strengths and weaknesses, and then combining those two to make a more formidable team. And that's really a very powerful method from that perspective.
I also see this as being a very a valuable tool for managers to use when not only assessing the members of their team, but in filling a slot in their team, see what that personality demands out of that position, and then look at what the other team members have, and then trying to fill it with, that kind of, just as Azinger did for his team.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Awesome. I love this.
Getting the best team you can put together in any situation, and it's a great way for management.
Yeah, I mean, you have 7 personalities here, and it almost looks like a basketball team with 2 on the bench.
There you go.
You want one.
There's the championship team right there.
Yeah, you want every one of those players on your team.
Yeah, well, you think about it. You look at these when the All-Star games get together. You have 12 guys on each team in basketball. Let's talk that are all superstars, right?
Right.
They don't always gel together well because
let's talk about the Miami Heat for just a moment, where they.
There you go. You got some superstars there, but that team will not win championships just being 3 superstars. They have to have what they call role players. So that's where the management, Pat Riley and the coach, have to sit down and say, well, what do we need in our team? What are the 7 personalities, if you will, that we need to start filling in these slots so that we can gel together and work together? Because 1 person, 2 persons, 3 persons doesn't make the whole team. It's got to take a whole bench full of people to do it.
Yeah. Let's spend a minute talking about your golf school, because I know that it was named one of the top 25 golf schools in the country.
Yep, Golf Magazine did their rating.
Congratulations,
yep.
That's
one
awesome.
One of the top schools rated and recommended, so we were very honored to have that.
Sure.
To receive that.
Sure.
Yeah, so we've been here on the Big Island. We're in the Big Island of Hawaii, and we've been here for over 10 years now. And worked with tens of thousands of players. We're at 3 of the courses here on island. And what was important for me is to create a program that any person could attend, any age, any gender, any level of player, people who have never touched a club, all the way to PGA Tour professionals. I wanted to create an experience that people could use to help them as individuals. So it really is designed that anybody can come. It's great for couples or families where you have multiple levels. We get a lot of single-digit handicappers, club champions come in and really try to hone down their game. We get collegiate players or wannabe collegiate players who are preparing for that next level. A lot of middle to high handicappers, too, that are just frustrated. They're getting stuck. They get stuck at 100. They get stuck at 90, and they don't know why. They can't break through. Very, very good for them. Ladies love our program because it helps them find their own swing, something that's working for them. So the program's designed for any level, and you can take it together. So a lot of golf programs, they'll immediately assess your ability, and they'll send beginners to one side of the driving range and middle handicappers to another side, and then they separate everybody. But we put everyone together, okay? And the reason why that works is when we teach you the principles, we teach you them as a group of 3 to 5 people, show you how to do it, practice some of the group exercises that you do. You do it individually, but we do it as a group. And then we send you off to your own hole on the putting green or your own area on the driving range, and then you get coached one-on-one to address your individual needs based on what's important to you at that stage. So that way you get to learn the principles as a group, but then you also get the individual one-on-one attention. Then we get back together, and we do that just off and on throughout the entire half-day program. And so by the time you finish, you'll have something that works for you as an individual, but you'll also understand the principles together. So couples, it's great for them because then they can understand each other's games. So you're learning about the personality of your spouse's game so that when you go out and play together, you can support each other. You know when to say something and when not to say something, and when to help and when not to. And it's like one of the jokes we always say is it's coming to take a lesson with us as a couple is cheaper than marriage counseling. So you can come out and do that as well.
It's a quick way to divorce court.
Yeah, that's right. So and that's really the power of it, and it's very hands-on. We don't believe in sitting in a room and reading and listening, and that's something that you can do at home. We believe in experiential learning, is doing it, feeling it, hitting the shot, seeing how it works. And the powerful thing about coming to the Golf Academy is that we have expert coaches that are going to observe and coach and talk with you and help you figure out what's going to work best for you, because we want you to become your own coach. We want you to become your own advocate when you're out there, because when you're out there, it's you. It's your game. So we want you to be able to assess and determine what's going to work best for you. And, to me, we try to detach from outcome, but I must say that we do have some great outcomes. And to me, it's short-term as well as long-term. So we've had people come and do the clinic. We had one guy, he was probably maybe an 8-9 handicap, good player. But he hit a slump in his game, and he had been stuck in the 90s and very frustrated. In fact, he shot a 99 the day before he came into our clinic. He showed up that morning and said, this is it. If I can't get it back today, I'm quitting. And he was serious, and he took the program. We freed him up. He came and did the 7 principles. He played right after. I said, go out and play, have some fun, okay? He went out. He came around that 4 hours. I was still there doing another clinic. He came up to me. He goes, I just added up my score, and I shot a 73. So he went from a 99 to a 73 just by doing our program.
There's a testimonial for you.
Yeah, and he said it was effortless. He didn't think about anything other than hitting that one shot in front of him. And so that just goes to prove that he was about ready to call it quits. He had tried new equipment, tried new swing techniques, and it was all there. So our belief is that for every individual, it's there. It's in you. So now we're just trying to peel away a couple of the layers and help you get to the essence and pull it out from there and have some fun with it. But everyone has a different goal in the game of golf. So you have beginners who just want to learn and maybe go out and play with their friends and family. You mentioned before there's some people that play business golf. They want to go out there, and a lot of the words I hear is, I don't want to embarrass myself. I want to get out there and hang out. And so other people want to go out and win tournaments. Some people want to make their high school or college team and compete at that level. So for each person, these tools that they'll pull out of coming to the academy will help them achieve their goals. And that's the very first thing we ask when they get there is, what do you want out of this golf clinic? We have you fill out a survey. We're not there to help you. We're not there to impose what we want. We're there to help you get what you want. And that's the difference in our program.
And it sounds like an awesome program, and everyone can find out a whole lot more about it by going to spiritofgolfacademy.com. Darrin Gee, dude, I really appreciate your time. Great books. They're available on our website. And thanks so much for your time. And best of luck in the new year.
All right. Same to you.